Hi there, it's me again. I just want to show you the wiring that I'll be doing for my lights for my camper van. So this is what I've been wiring up. So I've got the connectors on here like this. So I'd like to show you how I put this together, and I've learned how to do this myself off of YouTube videos. They make it look easy generally, because most of the people that show you how to do it are experienced in doing these kinds of things. So I'm going to show you me doing it as a novice, and you can see some of the problems that I might have encountered that you might too, and how to overcome them. And yeah, let me show you now. So like I said, this is the light, this here is the connector, and these here are the little metal parts that go inside of this connector, and you have to attach these to the end of this cable. These are little bungs that go into the end of here so that they don't allow water or anything to go inside. So these are the male part of the connectors, which I've put in here, and these are the female part here, which receives the male part, which I'm putting in this end. I'm hoping that's right as well, to be honest, because actually there was no instructions with these, so we'll soon find out. But this is the end result of what we end up with, and literally once they're together you can just pull these apart and you can see inside, hopefully, or not. Let's get some light in there. That the little metal prongs are in there for the male part, and then the female receiver will be inside of this one here. I haven't got the other wire connected to this part yet because I haven't got the wires, so I'm waiting for those to arrive. And then it literally just plugs in like this. Simples. So then if I needed to replace this, I can literally just unplug this and replace this part and put a new one in. So I'm going to show you now how this goes together. So I've got a few tools that I have tried using, and I've found that I'm quite comfortable with this one, with the aid of these as well. So if you're doing a job like this one can be sufficient to do the whole thing. So here we go, I'll show you how it works. So the first thing that I'm going to do is split this wire a little bit further down so that I can work with it, and I'm going to strip off a little more of the casing, just like this. Seems that I've got it set slightly too tight because it's actually cut a tiny piece of the wire. Can you see? I think there's 2 strands of wire there. We want to try and avoid that, because obviously the less wires you've got, the less conductive it is, hence why there are multi cables in there. So I think we'll get away with those 2, and what I might do is just adjust this to be a tiny bit wider, so hopefully the next one that I cut, it won't be like that. Let's have a look. Pull this little piece off. It still did a tiny bit actually. So again, 2 little strands there that have been cut through, so I'm definitely going to adjust that a little bit more for my next one. just going to cut this off so I haven't got any loose little bits hanging around. So there we are, we've got two pieces that are this long. The reason that I've cut them this long, because obviously the part that's going to be receiving it isn't that long, it doesn't need to be that long to fit on there. But the reason that I've done that is because the cables are so fine, I'm actually going to make them slightly thicker so that the piece that I'm fitting it into can actually grip hold of this. It's easier if it's larger like this. So I'm folding those down in half, giving them a tiny little twist so that they stay together. And I'm also using the pliers just to flatten it off a little bit, just so that it slides into the male receiving part properly, because it needs to be quite fine to go in there. So this is the male receiving part that I'll be using. And it slides into this area here, and then this is the reverse side here. So this slides just inside of here, and what we're looking for is to push it to enough that the insulation is going to be crimped by this part here, and then the metal wire is showing here for this crimp. So when that crimps there, it will be conductive on this middle part here. So this is the bit that I find quite tricky personally. So this is the crimper that I'm using here. So once I've inserted my cable in, I am using this one here, and I'm going to crimp the part with the wire on it first. So I'm going to close it down over the part where the wire is and give it a little squeeze. And as you can see, it doesn't fully do it the first time when I do it. It seems when other YouTubers that have lots of experience with this, they seem to be able to get this first time. But for me, maybe I'm just not giving it enough. But this definitely takes practice, so I would not be expecting to be doing this as a novice and getting it right first time. So that's the first part of the crimp here on the metal, and if I pull it, I can feel that there's still some movement on there, so I'm not fully happy with that crimp. So I'm going to use this little area here on my crimper so that I can focus my crimp a little bit more around the wire. And now I think that's definitely more sturdy. This is not an easy task because also it's very small, so I've certainly noticed the older I get, the less I can see, and this job is definitely no exception to that. So there we go, I'm quite happy with that part now. It's nice and tight. So now I'm just going to close this part that goes around the insulation using the same piece. I have heard people say that the little flaps on that are a little bit too large, So some people do clip them off, but I've actually found if you're careful with it, you can't really do it in one hit, but you can close this up carefully so that both pieces hug the wire nicely. I think, well, I might be wrong, but I think it gives it added protection and a bit more security. But it does take a little bit more fiddling, and I suppose when you've got lots to do, it's not ideal. But it takes a good few little squeezes and turning it around in different places to make it all come together nicely. But I'm quite happy with the results. I've done about 5 or 6 of these now, and it looks fine and it feels strong. You know, you can give it a good tug and it's not going anywhere. So I think really that you just need to play around with these tools when you haven't used them before on a regular basis. And there's my crimp. So it's nice and tight. If I give it a good little tug there, it's not coming off. And we've avoided crimping anywhere from here upwards because we need these pieces to remain as they are. It's a nice good tight crimp. So I'm going to repeat the same on this wire with another male connector. I think plenty of patience needs to be observed when you're doing something like this. If you haven't got patience, it might be worth trying and practicing for patience or getting some help with it, because it can feel quite frustrating actually at times. There's me thinking, oh, I'll just go and do some electrics. And you think, I'll get some lights, I'll wire them in. It takes a lot longer than you imagine for all of the jobs that you have to do. So I've been learning throughout this whole process. So the best advice I've been given is take your time and do your research. That one went really smoothly actually. I was quite pleased with that. So as you can tell, that little bit of practice, just do a few of these and before you know it, I think things get quicker and easier. I think that whoever it was on YouTube that said to clip these slightly longer pieces was probably right. They're obviously got a lot more experience than I have, but they are quite long actually. So it's probably worth following that advice. This is showing you another way. It's always good to have different perspectives on everything, so I've learned. But yep, definitely take time, do lots of research, expect failures in places, because I think that's the only way that you learn, really. Failure is learning, isn't it? So there we go, there's the 2 male connectors on there. And what I should have done before starting to crimp these on was to put these on the cables, but I'm fortunate that these actually fit over. So I'll pull these over now. And they're nice and tight on there. I'll double check that they're not going anywhere. And I'm doing it this particular way around just because I'm putting, I don't know if you can see, there's a number on here. You probably can't see that. There's a number 1 here and a number 2 here. So just for consistency, I'm putting the black in number 1 and the red in number 2. And then with a little bit of a wiggle, it's very difficult to show you here, but with a bit of a wiggle you can see they're coming through. Once it's located, they do come through fairly easily, but it does take a little bit of work to get them lined up, and there we go. You see that? They're coming through there. And what I've been doing is just getting my pliers inside and just grabbing hold of each one and giving it a little tug just to make sure it's fully located. And there you go. Pins are in, and then those little yellow bits have located themselves, but if they don't, then you can just wiggle them in, and that makes it tidier and nothing's going to be getting inside of there. So there we go. And then once I've finished wiring up the female side of it, these wires they clip into each other, so that will go in there like that via this one that will fit, and they fit nice and snugly into each other. So just to keep these together, I'm just going to clip them in like so, and then the other cable will come out the other side when I connect it up to my electrics in my van. So there you go. I hope that was helpful for you, and you've learned something so that you don't have to make some of the mistakes that I've made. So there you go. Thanks for watching.